Hi everyone, my name is Jennifer Jackson. I'm a registered nurse and I have a quick video today to talk to you a bit about different functions on Twitter and using Twitter as an academic or as a professional. And this presentation was originally designed as a workshop, but I'm hoping that I can show you just a few quick things so that you will get some benefit in learning about how you would use Twitter as a nurse. So just going to share my screen here. And we're off. All right, so talking about social media use in academia. So why do we use social media? This presentation will start with just a little overview of why we use social media at all, and then get into more specifics about Twitter. So why do we use social media? So if we think about how social media differs from other types of technology, that gives us a good perspective on why we use this. So I've got some examples here of comparing social media to other types of technology to help illustrate that. So social media constitutes a fundamental communications revolution, and we have never had the capacity to do anything like it before, and it is here to stay. So social media is not a trend, it is not a fad, it is a fundamental change in how humans can share information and communicate. And so while the individual tools we use, like Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, whatever the case may be, those may come and go, but the idea of using social media in one form or another will be here to stay. So if we think about what we can do in terms of communication with social media, if we compare that to the telephone. So the telephone allows us to have a live exchange back and forth between two people, but so we can mutually send information back and forth, but we can usually only do it with two people. Two is kind of the limit. So I've got a little cheeky picture of me here with Gareth Southgate during the World Cup. However, if we compare a telephone with a television, we can broadcast to large groups of people, but the communication only goes one way. So we can go out to many people, but it only goes one direction. I can yell at the TV all I want, but that message is never received. So again, some more pictures from the World Cup when I was in England at the time. However, so our comparators are, we can either go back and forth live, but only two people, or we can broadcast to a large group, but only one direction. Social media is fundamentally different technology in that it allows us to go back and forth and broadcast at the same time. Another thing that the audience can do is connect amongst themselves. So previously, each person would individually watch the World Cup in their own home without necessarily being connected. But now there's an exponential increase in communications capacity. So that means we can do something we have never been able to do before in human history. And it has increased, exponentially the amount of communication we can produce, create, especially with smartphones. Now everyone is walking around with a film studio and a recording studio and a web design studio, all of these different types of capacities, you have them all in your pocket. So it would have been unthinkable years ago to have a book and a printing press at the same time, but that's essentially what we have now. So the combination of the mobile technology as well as social media has meant that we can communicate in a completely new way. And so we're not going to be coming back from that. It's here to stay. And that's why I suggest people learn how to use it, because when we can use social media, we can leverage the potential of social media for ourselves, for our professions, and to share our knowledge. So social media does three things. You can connect with other people, you can create content, and you can share both your content and others. So for some people who are intimidated to start using social media, I would share with them that you already know how to do these things. You know how to connect with people in your life, you know how to create new ideas, you know how to, share things through conversation. What we're doing is taking those skills and putting them online. You're not having to learn brand new skills from scratch. These are skills you already have, and we're learning to use them in a new way. So shifting gears a little bit to talk about why Twitter specifically. And Twitter is very important for the nursing community, but also more broadly for the academic community. That's where a lot of the cutting edge conversations are happening. And so it's important that people can be a part of those conversations and do that by using the app. Twitter is also where a lot of garbage of humanity is there. And I don't mean that to be facetious, but like there is racism and sexism, misogyny, all kinds of horrible, horrible opinions are shared on Twitter as well. And the platform has been criticized for not being responsive enough to remove that type of content. So it's good to go in with eyes open and know that not everyone on Twitter is there to have a civilized conversation. But having said that, you can find, like any large group of people, there's pockets here and there that you can find that you can have great conversation with. And so you have to be aware of the potential for that within the technology. So Twitter has gone through different kind of iterations and brandings of what it is. But basically it's microblogging. So it allows you to share what's happening as it happens. So there's an emphasis on this very kind of live idea. And you can share text, videos, and pictures. A few other things as well, but those are the main ideas. It's mostly adults who use this platform. It tends to be a bit older audience. And as you've probably heard, posts are called tweets. And some of the functions with Twitter, so the main post is a tweet. Some of the other functions that you'll use are very similar to things that you would use with email. They just have some different names. So again, it's taking skills you already have and applying them to a new type of technology. So I would encourage you, go to your account. You can sign in, create an account, go to the profile. So this is the page that shows who you are. You want to have a picture. It doesn't necessarily have to be a picture of your face, but there's sort of an understanding that you don't trust anybody who just has like the gray outline. You want to have some kind of picture. So if you didn't want, a professional picture of yourself, you could have a picture of your dog or some flowers or whatever you wanted to do, but have some kind of picture. Also, I suggest you change the name that Twitter will assign you. They'll probably give you, J Jackson 4682759. You want to change that to something that reflects you in one way or another. So you can put your, an abbreviation of your name and then edu, research, whatever the case may be, but have something that's a bit more personal. A lot of the accounts on Twitter that retain those kind of long strings of letters and numbers are bots, or they're not genuine accounts. And so people can be kind of suspicious when they see that long initial handle. So that's something you can change. It's also important to write a bio, even if your bio is just very brief. But it's good to, I think the secret of a good bio is to tell people what you are going to tweet about so that they know whether or not they want to be following your tweets and whether they want to follow your page. Some people write incredibly witty things, or they describe themselves in, very interesting, snappy detail, and you can do that. I think it's more useful to tell people this is what I'm going to talk about. So if they click on your profile, they say, okay, yes, this is of interest to me, or you know what, no, these aren't topics I'm interested in. So that way it makes it a little easier to get other followers and to share your profile with others. So there are some, I'm not going to go back and forth between using Twitter Live in this presentation. There are other videos out there that can do that. So this is just general kind of tips and tricks, and you can use the Twitter interface with some experimentation yourself. So you want to make friends. The best way to get people to follow you is to follow them, because it's generally a common courtesy to follow. When someone follows you, you follow them back. Now, don't just do this automatically. You do want to check, because, for example, I have adult entertainers following me. I have a hotel in Florida following me. I have people who say that they are somewhere in Eastern Europe following me. So I don't necessarily, on a professional account, want to be following all of those people back. So that's at your discretion, but it's a good idea to follow accounts that follow you. And I suggest you type in, nurse, academic, whatever the case may be, type something in the search box at the top, and then just, take the top 10 to 50 people that come up and follow them all, and then build from there. This is another thing that helps your account, A, your tweets show up in other people's accounts, and B, gives your account credibility. If you've only got 4 followers, it doesn't share a lot of credibility. And so establishing credibility is something we have to do in life, and that's something we also want to be doing on Twitter. So here are some key terms that are used for different aspects of Twitter. So tweet is where you create and share original content. You may include links or something in that tweet, but the tweet is a fresh message just from you. A retweet is where you share someone else's content. And so that can either be just a verbatim resharing, or you can post a comment and then share. So it's a little bit like forwarding an email, in that you're sharing it with your followers, but then you can comment on it as well, like great new publication, and then retweet the link, for example. You can also give a like or the little heart sign, which is kind of like giving a little nod to someone else's content. This can be a little bit difficult, because sometimes if someone might write like, my grandfather passed away, and then you don't really want to like that comment, but it's seen as more than just a positive sign. It is seen as kind of an acknowledgement of someone else's comments. So even if the post is a sad one, it is okay to like that. It doesn't signify any kind of like glee or anything like that. The other thing you can do is reply or comment directly to someone's tweet. So that way it will send a notification to that other person that you have responded to them. And it's important to know that unless you put stricter privacy rules on your profile, all of your tweets are public. So even if you are replying or commenting on someone else's tweets, if I wanted to, I could dig through your profile and still see that. So we want to make sure that no matter what style of tweet we're using, that it's always professional and it's always something that we would be comfortable with others reading. So I have another presentation on digital professionalism, which if you have questions about that, particularly if you're a nurse, I encourage you to check that out. But you want to keep in mind that things can always be seen. Now, we also have privacy by obscurity in a degree. It doesn't mean that because someone else can technically see it, doesn't necessarily mean that anybody is going to be digging around. Like most of us tweeters are not President Trump. We don't have people following every single word that we type. And so there is a degree of privacy there in that, frankly, they're just not of interest to huge numbers of people. However, if there's ever some type of misconduct or any type of professional concerns you have, then there could be a look for a pattern of behavior, and old tweets might come into play. So you want to ensure it's okay to challenge people, it's okay to be assertive, but you want to make sure that you always have kind of a professional demeanor about it, because keep in mind that that can always be seen by other people. So looking at the anatomy of a great tweet, some different factors you want to consider are to tweet about the themes that are in your Twitter bio. So if you've written in your bio, like mine says I talk about health politics, so I do talk about politics quite a bit in the tweets I share. So I try and talk about politics in a professional, non-partisan way and comment on policies, but I have good kind of alignment there between what I say I'm going to talk about and what I actually talk about. Now it's fine every once in a while to join in with cat or day or some other theme like that and share a picture of your cat or a picture of your garden or whatever the case may be, but keep in mind you want most of your content to fit within the parameters that you shared on your bio. To use a very in vogue term, you want to be very on brand. So Twitter is more effective when you have a clear audience and you want to share information that is relevant to that audience. So it's good to have tweets that are timely, that share a clear opinion on an issue. Some people say that they don't want to share clear opinions because they don't want to be too confrontational or something, but I say the clearer your stance on an issue, the better, because then you can have people that will directly engage with you and say, yes, I agree, or maybe, no, I don't agree, and ideally there'll be a respectful debate about here's why, or did you consider this, and you can go back and forth. So yeah, if people try and post just completely neutral topics all the time, it's not very effective because then there's nothing for somebody else to hook into. And so it's a lot harder to get some dialogue going. You want your tweets to be relevant to your audience. You can use hashtags, which I'll explain more in a minute. And it's good to include links, images, different things that make your tweet kind of stand out a bit. So this is a tweet that I shared. So my new publication is out, Burnout and Resilience in Critical Care. So, and then I've got a link to the publication, and I've also put in the Twitter handles or Twitter names of my funders and different organizations that were involved in my degree, as well as the hashtag FOAMCC, so free open access medical education, but critical care, and then critical care generally. So those are two knowledge communities that are online that I thought this might be of interest to them. And then by clicking on another button, you can see where your tweets go. So this tweet was looked at 4,500 times and people clicked on the link 226 times. So to me, this was a huge success because I was able to share my research and tap into people who might be interested. So I said my new publication, as in this is current, this is new. And as well, I also said these are people who were involved to hopefully get their attention. They can share the message, and also using the hashtags to say, hey, if you are in these knowledge communities, this might be of interest to you. So this is just a sample of something you can put in a tweet. So what's in a hashtag? So hashtags are the main connector on social media. For those who are familiar with research terms, it functions like a data code. So it organizes like things. So if you put in hashtag pain, all of the tweets you come up will use that same hashtag. So it's a bit like applying a filter. There are, trillions of tweets that have been produced. It would be impossible to sift through them to find every single thing you would be interested in. So you can use a hashtag to search and then see what comes up from there. When we talk about on Twitter something is trending, it means that hashtag is used a lot. That's all a trend is. So in the UK, hashtag NHS is the second largest hashtag or most trending hashtag consistently in the UK, with hashtag Brexit being number one. But because the NHS is so often talked about on Twitter, it is a major theme that people will gather around. So if you work in healthcare or you do research for healthcare, it's a great theme to include in your tweets. The other thing to know about hashtags is they can be used literally or ironically. So you can say something like, I got an A star, hashtag winning. Or you can say, I failed and I'm gonna have to retake, hashtag winning. So just be aware if you see something it's difficult sometimes with text to imply tone, but know that a hashtag can be used ironically as well. So if you see it and you're not quite sure, that could be what's going on. So there are tons and tons and tons of hashtags out there for healthcare and for academia, and I suggest that you find what works for you, whether you're a nursing student or you do breast cancer research, you're a healthcare leader. There's all kinds of different ways that you can connect your tweets so that they're more easy for other people to find. So here are some examples, and I would say just whatever you're interested in, there is a hashtag out there somewhere for it. You can also make up your own. Like you could say hashtag my cat is the cutest if you wanted, but don't necessarily expect that to trend. It's more that idea of using a hashtag ironically. It's kind of also using a hashtag for fun. So you can make up your own if you want, but it's also good if you're trying to share with the specific knowledge community online, you want to use the hashtag that they are using. And sometimes it takes a little work to find out. So for example, there's one on here called SMAC, Social Media and Critical Care. This includes people who work in intensive care. And so in Canada, it's ICU, intensive care unit. In the UK, it's ITU, intensive treatment unit, or there may be, HDU, step down. Like there's lots of different ways to talk about what critical care could be or what those individual wards might be called. So they've sort of settled on that community uses SMAC, social media and critical care. So that applies whether you're in Australia or in Canada, in the UK, or in any other country. There's also hashtags in lots of different languages. So I focused on the English ones here, but there are lots of options that way as well. So one final suggestion I will give is that sometimes people really overthink their tweets. And this is meant to be kind of a quick snapshot of what's happening as it's happening. So sometimes, particularly women think, oh, I don't have anything I want to share. I don't have anything to say. And I would say, absolutely you do. So when you're thinking about creating, say, a learning resource for nursing students or for new nurses, and you'd say it's really important that you always ask questions if you're not sure about how to do a procedure. That can go in your resource, that can also go in a tweet. It's fine to say, even if you're not sure, always ask. Nurses are always here to help, or something along those lines. You can comment on a topical issue. So if, the NHS 10-year plan or a new, pharmacare proposal or whatever the case, if those new reports are being released, you can comment on them. Commenting can be positive, saying these are the strengths of this, or these are things I would change. And it's also good to just share kind of your pearls of knowledge and engage with other people. So if someone else comments on or tweets something that you think is really interesting, you could say, yes, I agree, or you could tweet that, yes, and also this needs to be considered. So I would suggest don't agonize over your tweets, just write stuff. And if you're kind of not sure about inspiration, maybe look at what some of the other people you're following, what they're talking about, and see how you can jump into the conversation. It's also important for Twitter's algorithms. So Twitter uses complex kind of digital coding to show like whose tweets show up first, what tweets you see. And so to move your content up that algorithm, or like to kind of have yours more visible, it's good to sign in often. So if you do some tweeting once a month, you're going to have a less impact than if you tweet for 5 minutes every day. And that can be all it is. Maybe you sign in, write one thing, sign out. If that's what you have capacity for, that's fine. But with Twitter, frequency is a key point over duration. So I suggest signing in and saying something quick, or responding to someone else, even just giving a few likes. Try and do that As often as you feel you reasonably want to. Maybe every working day, maybe 2 working days a week, whatever you feel comfortable with, but more often is good. So my Twitter handle is there on the screen, and thank you to Zoe Dunlop and King's College London for supporting this project, and I wish you happy tweeting. So find me online and tell me if you have any questions or anything like that. And I'm happy to either do a follow-up video, respond to questions, or just follow you as well. So take care and look after each other. Bye.